Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Charles.
It's the end of the week,
End of the week.
and the hallways were empty. Everyone left early, and you were the only person left. So I've grabbed you in to talk on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
That actually is not true at all. Zoe, you just gave your first speech at an industry conference.
I did.
And I think that's super cool. It's it's a nerve-wracking experience, and we'll get into that at the end. But I thought the topic was so pertinent to so many of our ever-growing audience
Yep.
that we'd get you on and capitalize on the fact that you've made all that material preparation and find out what you have to teach us about managing the upgrade cycle
Yeah.
in Business Central.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that we're going to talk about actually probably apply generally to all upgrades across all sorts of technologies. There's pearls of wisdom that anyone can take out of this. But let's just start with introducing you. So tell us about you, Zoe.
Yes. So my name is Zoe. I'm a project manager at LIDS, part of the Dynamics practice. I've been here about a bit over 2 years at this point. Working on Business Central implementations, SoloChain implementations, InsightWorks implementations.
So WMS and ERP
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And you love technology.
I love it.
And what did
I
you
live
do?
and
What
breathe
was your
it.
back like from school? How did you get into technology from school?
Yeah, so my background is actually industrial engineering.
Yep, excellent.
So I knew that LID kind of had that embedded within their culture and the projects that we do. So it seemed like an obvious company to choose
Yep.
if I wanted to go into consulting. And it was a pretty natural path for me after engineering. Technology specifically, I was more so interested in LID as a company, so I didn't necessarily anticipate that I would be in technology. But now that I'm in it, I really enjoy it.
So you had no particular designs on technology when you first left school,
No, I didn't.
and we forced you into it.
Didn't necessarily get forced. It was a happy coincidence, but I didn't anticipate it.
Right. It's like an arranged marriage, and it could have gone horribly wrong,
Yeah.
but thankfully it worked out.
It was successful.
And so you've done enormous, really, you particularly have done a lot of really cool projects, and you've accomplished a lot in these 2 years. And to the point where it made sense to put you up and talk about some of your experiences
Yeah.
in front of an industry group, which can be, as we said, a nerve-wracking experience. Even I'm a regular speaker at the industry, and I get nervous every time, and so I can imagine how you felt in that situation. So let's get to the meat of what you talked about, because
Yeah.
it is interesting. Managing the upgrade cycle.
Yeah.
Or update cycle, however you want to say it,
Yeah.
in Business Central. So Business Central, for everyone who isn't familiar, it's an ERP platform. It is in the cloud,
Yeah.
right? So you are operating your business from an instance that is sitting somewhere in the internet,
Yeah.
in the Azure cloud, I assume.
It could be on cloud or on-prem.
It can be
It can be
on-prem,
both.
but
It can
it's
be both.
very unusual for it to be on-prem.
We don't have too many clients that are on-prem, and Microsoft is making a lot of initiatives nowadays to move everyone
Yeah.
to cloud.
Yeah.
So that's definitely where the future is heading, but you could technically have both.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
good. That's a good point. So tell us about Microsoft's, the way they go about releasing updates on their software.
Yeah, so when we talk through updates and the process of managing that update, the summit session that I had was specifically in relation to cloud, being on cloud, Microsoft Cloud. So they release updates, either major updates or minor updates. So minor updates happen every month except for April and October, because in April and October, that's when they release major updates. So all in all, minor updates is 10 times a year, major is twice a year.
Twice a year there's a major update. 10 times a year there's a minor update. if you could categorize, just to give people a picture of what a minor update means versus a major update, what would be the difference?
Yeah, minor updates is really more so service improvements, things that you wouldn't necessarily notice at first glance with the system, whereas major updates is core features that are changing.
Enhancements to features are what get packaged into the major updates.
Yeah.
Bug fixes, tiny performance enhancement issues, that's the minor.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's really good. So, well, I don't know how you want to go, because I see the way, Jeremy produces notes from conversations we had, and sometimes they confuse me.
Yeah.
They're supposed to help.
Through.
They're supposed to help, but sometimes they're
What do we
confusing.
want to go through?
Okay, but let's talk about. I want to start with the major updates, and then let's move to the minor updates after.
Yeah.
Okay. So October and May. Did we say April?
April.
October and April. Yeah, that would make sense. They would be more or less equidistant in the year. So October and April. It is an interesting timing as I think about it now, and I'm sure there's very good reason. If you just think about it, why would I choose October and April versus, say, July and Christmas? Like end of year and July the 4th, sort of work it where there's a holiday, and you'd hope the businesses have slight lulls in their business. And the only reason I'm saying that is, as you know, it's mid-November. We are in a peak for direct-to-consumer and retail. We're in a peak shipping period where everybody's on the go.
Yeah.
And they've just completed a major upgrade only a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Now, so I'm clear, let's start with this, because these are a bit like deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
The October that just passed, the October deadline,
Yeah.
is it October 31st that this upgrade is released?
No, so it's not. There's a few dates to be aware of with these major updates. So if we talk through the process, really about 2 months before that update is available, you'll have access to a preview environment.
A preview
About 2
environment in August.
Yeah, so you have a preview environment. You also have the ability to deploy some features in your existing environment. So
As early as August, 2 months in advance.
as early as August. So some features are available in your environment. You could decide to install them, and you could start playing around with those features in your actual environment. The difference with a preview is that it's not actually linked to your database and to your environment.
Okay. It's dummy data.
Exactly.
And so it's sometimes hard for a company to relate to what that preview is.
To really test it.
Yeah.
So those are about 2 months beforehand. 1 month beforehand, you'll get a notification from Microsoft that your environment is incompatible. If you do, sometimes you might not, but most times you do get an incompatibility with that version to come with the major update.
So Microsoft has scanned, for lack of a better word, your code base.
Mm-hmm.
Then they level it against what the new upgrade has, and if it will detect in advance where there's going to be a break in your functionality.
Yeah, where there's a conflict. Yeah.
Where there's a conflict, and that's 1 month.
Yeah.
Now, do people get nervous? Like, hey, you only got 30 days.
No.
Or you're going to explode.
People do get nervous, but you're actually just notified a month beforehand. By the time you actually have a deadline, that's 2-3 months afterwards.
So the October release, actually the hard deadline is until, say, December 31st? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Right now it's about November, mid-November.
Mid-November, so that's still scary.
It is still scary. That being said, it's not huge. Typically, it's not huge
The
changes.
conflicts tend to be minor.
Yeah.
Right, because
it really depends.
If you think about it.
I wouldn't say it's always.
No, but if you think about logically.
Yeah.
When I have such a fast upgrade cycle, or short upgrade cycle is actually a much better way of describing it, every 6 months, it's not like you're radically transforming the entire system every 6 months.
No.
So even though we're calling it a major update, it isn't major as in you're going to find out that 40% of your processes are broken.
No, definitely not.
Like so far what you've seen, what would be I know it's unfair to ask it this way, but what would be like a typical break? Like how many incompatibilities or would you find?
We usually get it only for one extension. So you could have multiple extensions deployed and maybe there's 20, 30 lines of code that it found an incompatibility with. It might certain things are very small, like Microsoft has decided to name a report with the same number of your custom report. So that's a break and
Right.
an incompatibility.
That seems pretty manageable.
That's very manageable, and oftentimes it is something as small as that.
Yep.
But definitely our developers are the ones that are looking into how much effort it is to fix that
To live.
incompatibility.
So
Yeah.
you used the word extension. I just want to remind the audience.
Yeah, good point.
We went over this with Matt on the pod, and it was a huge hit. Everyone loved it. Extensions, we have to remember, extensions is the Microsoft language for literal extensions to the code.
Yeah.
So you have your base code. If you never had to do anything, I have no idea if there's a business. I would love to know if there's a business out there that needs no modification to run.
Probably not that many. I think in my experience at LID, I've had one client
Well,
that
okay.
doesn't have.
That's great.
Yeah.
And okay, so that client has 0 extensions, could just take, the base code and work with it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually, in theory, will never have an incompatibility.
Yeah.
So the key is incompatibilities are always coming from extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And in Microsoft, there are 2 basic types of extension. There's an extension which is an actual piece of software that you will purchase or download from the Microsoft App
Source.
Store.
Yeah.
Or App Source, do you call it?
App Source. Yeah.
App Source. From Microsoft's App Source. And that means when it's sitting up there, there's an official business that has developed it and stands behind it.
Yep.
And their first responsibility with every major update is to make sure that their code is compatible.
Yeah, in order to stay on the App Source, you need to maintain compatibility.
That
by
is a
Microsoft.
requirement.
Yes.
If you want to be on the App Source. Now, presumably then Microsoft is scanning all of those apps alongside. You know how you gave that example of a month ahead of time, I'm going to give you the warning. You've got these incompatibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume, based on what you just said, that Microsoft has already gone into its App Source and scanned all of its third-party software and alerted them as well. Hey, these are incompatibilities that you're going to have to work with.
I'm not sure if we get notifications, that's a good point, but we would get them through our clients anyways.
Right. But in theory, it would make sense
It would.
that Microsoft would do that.
Yeah.
But that's one type. And then the other type, which is very classic and common, is that because as much as we all are basically doing the same thing, manufacturing or distributing or retailing product, we all have some level, except for that one client you just mentioned, of customization that's required where you've built an extension yourself as a company, or you've hired a third party to build it for you. But regardless, the point is that's where probably a lot of the incompatibilities show up.
Yeah, that's probably more where the nerves show up as a customer, that you have this extension that's incompatible in your environments. Because rest assured that if that extension comes from Microsoft's App Source, then they are responsible to update it. Whereas if it's yourself, you own that responsibility.
So a month out, they've given us this warning. Hey, you've got this incompatibility coming. Now you're going to create a test instance. From that notice period, when do they give you access to the new release so you can create a test environment?
Yeah, so you get access to that new release about a month after.
A month after the notification.
Yes.
Got it?
That being said, you could still work on the notification and you could still work on the fix without having an environment available to you that is the latest version.
I mean, that example you gave of I have a numbered report that now is duplicated by a Microsoft core report.
Yeah.
You could easily just say, well, I'm going to rename that numbered report right away and eliminate that.
Yeah, you could fix it. And then if you're no longer getting any notifications from Microsoft, let's say you've fixed that compatibility, you've deployed it to your development environment, and if you're no longer getting any notifications that your development environment is incompatible with the major version, then rest assured, likely you've fixed the compatibility.
Oh, so Microsoft is going to continually scan
Yes.
and continually report incompatibilities,
Yeah.
such that you could whittle that list down to when I get that month later into the test environment, I might only have one or no incompatibilities at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm in the test environment, right?
Yeah, so you could have 3 sandboxes and 1 production environment for Business Central. Typically, our clients have 2 sandbox environments, so they have another sandbox environment that's available to them. So they'll do a refresh of their production environment, get all their live data and configuration into a sandbox environment. Once that update is available, you'll be able to push the update to the sandbox environment and start the process of testing. What we typically recommend our clients is to test fully end-to-end your processes, so test all of procure to pay, test all of order to cash, all of operations, specifically focus on any major customizations that you've done to Business Central. Repeat that process with all your power users. And then once you feel confident that you don't have any issues and you're good to go, then you could start rolling out that update in production.
Now, when you say rolling out, is that just technology jargon? In my mind, how do you roll it out? Doesn't it have to just go into production in one big bang?
You schedule it.
Okay, what does that mean?
So I'll have my environment in Sandbox is now version 25.
Yep.
I'm good to go. Your production environment is also technically could be upgraded to version 25. I'm using 25 because that's the one that we're going to. But that environment is also available to be updated, and you have to just essentially go to your admin center in Microsoft Business Central and schedule the date that you want to schedule.
Mm-hmm. So I schedule it for Saturday.
Yeah, and it'll kick off on Saturday.
But see, you did it again. Okay, you're using roll it out, kick it off, but then on Sunday, is it done?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, but you see, I think from an old man like me,
Okay.
I want it to be real. You're not rolling it out, right? Watch. Here's rolling. Okay?
Yeah.
That right? It's a big bang. It's a cutover. It's a boom to boom.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
that's
I
better
think it's better
explained.
to
That's better explained. It's not a boom.
I think the CFO of any company wants you to talk straight to her,
Okay.
like tell her the truth. This is
Fair.
you scheduled for Sunday 11 a.m. Sunday 11:01. You're in the new environment.
It takes a bit longer, but yes,
Well, yeah, right, of course.
technically,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that's okay. I think this is enough because I want to spend a few minutes just because it is a very cool milestone in your career, giving a speech to an industry group. It is a milestone in your career, and it's nice to bag that milestone early because it means look out world, in 10 years I'm going to be speaking. You'll be giving TED Talks by then.
One can only dream.
Just tell me quickly, your speech was in October.
Yep.
When did you start preparing for the speech?
August.
I love that answer, okay? Because I just made a typical old man crack about younger generations. August means you're taking this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You're preparing a narrative. You're structuring a message. You're thinking about your audience. You knew who your audience was. Even in August, right?
I did. So when I submitted my sessions initially to Summit and to the board, I knew that I wanted to target it specifically to people that were new to Business Central or more on the admin path. Because if you've done Business Central for 5 years, you already know that the updates are coming.
Absolutely.
And you already know how to manage them.
Absolutely.
So I was really focused on my audience being new to Business Central.
Right, and I mean, if I were you, that's what I would want to do too. I don't want to sit in front of a bunch of, hardcore people who still call it nav, who know it inside out and are ready. No one actually is like this in an audience, but like ready to tear you apart with questions that are so advanced.
Yeah, that's the biggest fear.
Of course. I'm always terrified at what people are going to ask me, you know. So anyway, so you start in August, you knew your audience.
Yeah.
You targeted an audience that you knew you could deliver value to, which is all very, very shrewd and smart. And then let's say how far, like how many days in advance did you go from I have a finished presentation and now I'm going to practice it? You did practice before you spoke.
I did practice beforehand.
Thank goodness.
This was about a week out that I started practicing.
Perfect.
With my speech, timing it. I knew I had some sort of notes, but I was trying not to rely on those in any way. Practicing the typical stuff, practicing in front of a mirror. I opted out of practicing in front of coworkers, even though I was advised to, or people mentioned it could help. I didn't like it.
I'm sure it does help, and different people need different ways.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Every time I have a big speech, I'm exactly like you. I gave at the rendezvous. I have 2 speeches to give.
Yeah.
And I think about my schedule. I know that leaving it to the last minute is disaster, because we have things that pop up. We have meetings, we have flights, we have places to go, we have other commitments. So I have to look at those pockets that are free. And I also, like you, started in August. I had my first 2 drafts of both speeches done early September. And then I just left them there, and once in a while I might nitpick and needle with it, but I left it there. And then the week before, hide in my office or hide in a hotel room, wherever I was, and practice it.
Exactly. That's how I went about it. I also knew that my audience wasn't people like my coworkers who have 10, 20 years of experience with BC. I knew my audience was new too, so I might not get the same challenging questions or feedback. So that was part of why I decided not to.
Yeah, but you care about the result enough that you practiced a lot, dozens of times, whatever it is, so you can get the rhythm right. You can figure out what the right words and phrases and how the slide, because it can be very unnatural if you haven't practiced it to go from slide to slide, and it's sort of like and on this slide, right?
Practicing your transitions. That was part of building my story, that I initially set up my presentation, but then once I started practicing it, I realized that some things
don't work.
Needed to be moved, some things didn't work. Yeah, exactly.
You're a pro already. At least you know what it takes to be a pro. So I'm very grateful. Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I think everything that we just talked about updating and upgrading, I mean, I still call them upgrades, but whatever, is fascinating. And then sharing some wisdom especially for the younger or early career people who are thinking about giving speeches, some advice from Zoe and El Presidente.
Yeah.
Get that story written out as early as possible. And you just said it will give you the opportunity to fine-tune and modify to make it even more perfect down the road. And then as you get close to the event, practice. Pretend it's like the school play, and you got to do 5 days of rehearsal and then the dress rehearsal, and then you go live and it's a big hit. The audience, I believe it was a standing ovation, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
There we go. Very rare standing ovation at a conference speech, but you got it.
I
Good
did.
for you, Zoe. Have a great weekend. Do you have big plans?
Thank you. Not too much. Soccer
Oh, you play soccer?
with my family. Yes, I do.
Oh, not in a league. Just
No.
like,
A beer league.
is it?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah. Co-ed.
You and your family are a soccer team? And you play other families?
Not other families.
Other
Other
teams.
teams.
So who in this beer league, who's the top team?
It's my third game this weekend.
But you
So
come
I'm
on.
not sure
you
yet.
kinda
It's
have-
certainly not us, unfortunately.
How'd you do the first 2 games?
We've lost.
What score?
The first one didn't count. It was a qualifying one, and we were playing against Division 1.
Who's
so
Division 1? What?
They
I
were
don't know
very
what the hell
high.
that means.
They were very high.
What was the team called?
I can't remember.
What's your team called?
The Salams.
The what?
The Salams?
Like salami?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a team that wasn't born to win. I'm sorry, Zoe. You need something like, the Flaming Torches or
That's setting us up for
the
failure.
Golden Arrows or the I don't know, Fleet of Foots or the Salams. Of course,
I'll come to you next time.
Next year, you should go. You call yourself the Omelets. That's another winning team. Okay, well, that's actually really, really, really funny. That's great. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Hopefully the
You
weather
too.
holds up.
I hope so.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.